This video assumes you're familiar with development for a native mobile platform, such as iOS with Swift or Android with Kotlin, but you don't need to be an expert by any means. This video will show you how to build a Flutter app from scratch, so if you're completely new, you'll catch up just fine. What is Flutter? In the simplest terms, Flutter is a software development toolkit from Google for building cross-platform apps. Flutter apps consist of a series of packages, plugins, and widgets, but that's not all. Flutter is a process, a philosophy, and a community as well. Flutter is that awesome. You can build a high-quality app that's performant and looks great, very quickly. This video will show you how. Flutter is for both the new or experienced developer who wants to start a mobile app with minimal overhead. Flutter is for someone looking to make an app that runs on multiple devices, either right away or in the future. Great things about Flutter. Flutter is open source. Flutter uses the Dart programming language. One of the best features of Flutter is hot reload. Flutter is purposely attractive, using Google's material design out of the box. Popular apps from some of the world's biggest companies are built with Flutter. Google Ads, Google Stadia, Rive, New York Times. When not to use Flutter. Flutter isn't the best tool for every application. Here are some areas where Flutter is an evolving platform. Games and audio, game engine technology like Unity or Unreal is better for this. Apps with specific native SDK needs. Certain platforms it doesn't support Apple bitcode yet, which means that it doesn't support watchOS, tvOS, or certain iOS app extensions. Flutter has a modular, layered architecture. This allows you to write your application logic once and have consistent behavior across platforms, even though the underlying engine code differs depending on the platform. To start, visit flutter.dev website. You find link below in description. This portal is the source of truth for any installation instructions or API changes that occur between this book's publication and the time you read it. If there are any contradictions, the information at flutter.dev supersedes. The first step is to download the SDK. You can follow the steps on flutter.dev. Follow the instructions to download the SDK. Once you do that, you'll have access to the Flutter command line app, which is your starting point. To check you've set it up correctly, run the following command in a terminal: Flutter Doctor. In this example output, Flutter Doctor has identified a series of issues, mainly, no Java, an outdated Android toolchain, and that CocoaPods, Android Studio, and Google Chrome are missing. The Flutter team officially supports 3 editors: Android Studio, Visual Studio Code, and Emacs. However, there are many other editors that support the Dart language, work with the Flutter command line, or have third-party Flutter plugins. Additionally, Flutter Doctor will tell you to install the Android Studio Flutter plugin, which also triggers an install of the Dart plugin for Android Studio. You'll learn a lot more about hot reload in future videos, but now try minimum setup and come back to this video. For design pattern in your first application. All you need to start a new app is to have Flutter set up. If the Flutter Doctor results show no errors, you're ready to get started. Creating a new app. There are 2 simple ways to start a new Flutter app. In the last chapter, you created a new app project through the IDE. Alternatively, you can create an app with the Flutter command. You'll use the second option here. Flutter Create, Build and Run, and you'll see the same demo app. The ready-made app is a good place to start because the Flutter Create command puts all the boilerplate together for you to get up and running. But this is not your app. It's literally my app, as you can see near the top of main.dart. Main function is the entry point for the code when the app launches. Run app tells Flutter which is the top-level widget for the app. A widgets-build method is the entry point for composing together other widgets to make a new widget. Material app uses material design and is the widget that will be included in my app. Now we will import an already ready application with good design pattern and try to install it on our hosting and add some functionalities so that we can use it as CMS or admin. A demo app showcasing how Flutter can deliver a great multi-platform experience, targeting iOS, Android, macOS, Windows, Linux, and web. Built by Skinner in partnership with Google, Flutter Folio purposefully considers user expectations, input devices, and idioms for each platform, ensuring it feels at home on every device. Once Flutter is set up, you can use the default stable channel, or switch to the latest dev version to get the most current fixes for desktop web. Flutter upgrade. If you've never run a desktop build before, you will need to enable it with a one-time command for your current platform. Once you're on dev and desktop is enabled, you're ready to run the app. Flutter Run dweb. If you restart your IDE, you should also see a new launch option for your current desktop platform. This repo includes a set of keys for Cloudinary and Firebase that are on the free pricing plans. Depending on traffic, these may reach their limit. If that happens, you will need to provide your own keys in order to run the app locally. Those can be found in appkeys.dart. These limits should refresh each month, so your mileage will vary here. If you study this project, then you will definitely see benefits of this provider approach. You can use refactor to rename necessary classes. For now, we will just continue with a simple app and expand it further in several videos, so that we have everything from scratch and can understand different parts well. You've taken the first step towards making the app your own by customizing the material app body. You'll finish cleaning up the app in the next section. Please comment below your opinion. An empty app isn't very useful. The app should have a nice list of articles for the user to scroll through. Before you can display these, however, you need the data to fill out the UI. This is the start of a page model with a label and an image. You'll also need to supply some data for the app to display. In a full-featured app, you'd load this data either from a Firebase database and a JSON-based API. For the sake of simplicity as you get started with Flutter, however, you'll use hard-coded data in this video. You've created a list with images, but you don't have any images in your project yet. To add them, go to Finder and copy the Assets folder from the top level in your project's folder structure. When you're done, it should live at the same level as the lib folder. That way, the app will be able to find the images when you run it. But just adding assets to the project doesn't display them in the app. To tell the app to include those assets, open pubspec.yaml in your project root folder and add folder by assets configuration. Displaying the list. Back in main.dart, you need to import the data file so the code in main.dart can find it. Add the import to the top of the file, under the other import line. Putting the list into a card. It's great that you're displaying real data now, but this is barely an app. To spice things up a notch, you need to add images to go along with the titles. To do this, you'll use a card. In material design, cards define an area of the UI where you've laid out related information about a specific entity. For example, a card in a music app might have labels for an album's title, artist, and release date, along with an image for the album cover, and maybe a control for rating it with stars. Notice that card doesn't default to a flat square at the bottom of the widget. Material design provides a standard corner radius and drop shadow. Thinking about the widget tree helps explain the app as the layout gets more complicated and as you add interactivity. Fortunately, you don't have to hand draw a diagram each time. In Android Studio, open the Flutter Inspector from the View Tool Window's Flutter Inspector menu while your app is running. This opens a powerful UI debugging tool. This view shows you all the widgets on screen and how they are composed. As you scroll, you can refresh the tree. You might notice the number of cards change. That's because the list doesn't keep every item in memory at once to improve performance. Making it look nice. The default cards look okay, but they're not as nice as they could be. With a few added extras, you can spiffy the card up. These include wrapping widgets in layout widgets like padding or specifying additional styling parameters. Using the Widget Inspector, you'll see the added padding and sized box widgets. When you select a widget, such as the sized box, it shows you all its real-time properties in a separate pane, which includes the ones you set explicitly and those that were inherited or set by default. You now have a pretty list, but the app isn't interactive yet. What would make it great is to show the user details about a recipe when they tap the card. You'll start implementing this by making the card react to a tap. Creating an actual target page. The resulting page is obviously just a placeholder. Not only is it ugly, but because it doesn't have all the normal page trappings, the user is now stuck here, at least on iOS devices without a back button. But don't worry, you can fix that. This creates a new stateful widget which has an initializer that takes the page details to display. This is a stateful widget because you'll add some interactive state to this page later. The body of the widget is the same as you've already seen. Here are a few things to notice. Next, go back to main.dart and add the import line to the top of the file. Perform a hot restart by choosing Run Flutter Hot Restart from the menu to set the app state back to the original list. Tapping a page card will now show the page detail page. To complete the detail page, you'll need to add additional description to the site page model. Key points. Build a new app with Flutter Create. Use widgets to compose a screen with controls and layout. Use widget parameters for styling. A material app widget specifies the app, and scaffold specifies the high-level structure of a given screen. State allows for interactive widgets. When state changes, you usually need to hot restart the app instead of hot reload. In some case, you may also need to rebuild and restart the app entirely. Those pages list all the parameters and often have in-browser interactive sections where you can experiment. Please comment below your suggestion and opinion. If you like this, hit subscribe.